Hello, my name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Executive Talk. Those that are watching live and those that are listening later on our podcast, thank you so much for joining us in today's segment. Today, we're going to talk about portfolio development is essential. In today's marketplace, a lot of people are nervous about what's going on and what they see and how the market is performing. That obviously is raising a lot of concerns and making a lot of irrational moves potentially at this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this particular time frame and how to really navigate it and do it the right way. We want to make sure that all your moves are rational, they make sense, and they're moving in the right direction. But let's go ahead and talk about this time frame. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Kerri Farren with Summit Global Private Wealth with us to the stage to talk to us a little bit further about how to perceive this particular time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Kerri to the stage. How you doing, Kerri?
I'm doing just marvelous today. The weather's great, and there's a little noise right beside because just by the trash is coming right by the office right now. So,
Go figure.
Good noise to start this.
It's okay.
So anyway, I'm doing great.
Kerri, we've had an interesting start to the year. Obviously, since January, we've gone through a lot of changes. We've gone through a new president. Starting January 20th. And since then, there's been a lot of changes that we have not seen over the last few years. And this is not to get political to make sure everybody understands that are watching it, but just to really put our minds, there's been a lot of changes. Is that a fair way to position this first quarter?
Yeah, there are definitely changes in there. It is. Every new time, we get a new president or whatever these changes that happen, there's always going to be some kind of impact in it. But when you get somebody brand new, we make these big changes, then yeah, we're seeing so many different things happening right now that we haven't seen before. And it can cause stress, but it can also cause a little bit of fun right now. People might be enjoying it, but it is a lot different than what we've experienced in the last at least 8 years.
That's true. All right. And I love your positivity that you're able to say fun, but that's what makes you good at your job, because you're going to make this fun. You're going to make this time interesting for us here in today's show. So let's talk about the first and foremost kind of the emotion that happens when it comes to investment, which is, how worry impacts your investment decisions. And if I can put some shape, but one thing that we have spoken about in a lot of our shows is kind of the mental game that comes with investing. One thing that you had talked about in last month's show is a key word, which is worry. How frequently do people worry about money?
A lot. I'm trying to think here. I'd say a lot. But the thing is, it depends on the kind of person, though, too. I see people that are watching the market every day. It's stressing them out. It's killing them. They don't want to be in the market anymore. But then I've also talked to people that they see this. They've known of past history of the market, things like this, and they see what's going on, and they realize there's not much they can do about it right now. So we have people that don't watch the market every day. They're just sitting there for the long term. They're okay. But then you have some of the other people that just talk. So they just have a huge fear right now of what's going on with their money.
And let's talk about some of the points that you gave to us to discuss and some of the things that you've seen. You said reasons for worry and fear of investing, fear of losing money, security, fear you'll fall behind or miss opportunities, reacting to volatility, lack of knowledge, fear to commit, and also consumer confidence. So talk to us about a couple of those that really stand out to you that you're seeing during this time.
One of them that I really think about first is the volatility. We had some really down days in the past, a couple -5%, -5 again, and it kept going down. And people would get afraid on those and they'd want to pull out then. And people have. But then the next day we went through here and we had a 10% return. So what the fear of people are is they want the money out when it's going down, but the people that took it out just lost in that market of that return that we had the next day. So the lack of the knowledge of understanding how that works can give people like that other one, fear you'll fall behind with other opportunities. because they were wishing the next day, dang, I should have kept it in there because I could have had this return. So it's something like that, that it's the fear to commit, which is also on there. They want to put the money in there, but as soon as it starts going down, they're going to take it out. So those are the kind of fears we have right now. Are they're really not looking at the long term. They're really thinking about what's going on now and what they should do. And then they have that quick reflex, or whatever we're going to call it, when the market goes down. They were taking it out, and then they missed that huge 10, 12% that we had the next day.
Yeah, that's so true. And, consumer confidence is huge, when it comes to worry, because I can only imagine, Kerri, at the initial part of your conversation, when you have a consultation with somebody, the vision is always fantastic. People are extremely excited about what they perceive the future to be, where they're headed, their goals. Much like working out, everybody's excited about the end result. But it becomes that day-to-day volatility of what the day brings, which brings a lot of change, which brings a lot of uncertainty to the day, which creates worry. With consumer confidence, how much of a vital role does that play in people sticking out the long-term plan?
Yeah, the consumer confidence are people that are really looking at the long term, what their goals and objectives were to begin with, that they feel more confident in what they are learning, what they have learned, what they're in, and what the future is. The other people that aren't that confident are the ones that really don't have the education. They don't have the knowledge. They don't really understand what the long term is.
Right.
A lot of people that I work with, maybe not a lot, but there are some people I work with that don't have that confidence in there. So even if at the original time they were looking for long term, all of a sudden it turns to short term and it starts stressing out that day. So the confidence has to come from the education and the trust that they have from the person that is teaching that and helping out with that, so that they can get to the level of where they feel comfortable. They're looking at the opportunities instead of the negative things that are happening, and just getting that, feeling of trust and stuff back in.
For sure. All right. Let's talk about some other things that you had mentioned as far as what people tend to worry about as far as their impact on their investment decisions. The desire to want to control your money and also worrying can force you to lose sight of the long-term thoughts and become short-term focus. Talk about the loss of control of your money. Because I can imagine when you put money into your savings account, there's still that level of control that you can go and transfer the money back into your checking account, right? And make moves. So you're okay putting in your savings account because it's still within reach.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you put that money in the marketplace, you're trusting that it's supposed to become more than what you originally put in, right? So that loss of control, to me, seems like what drives people to worry, because you're worried about, is it going to increase or I'm going to lose the value of that $50 that I put in?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair, because that's like the savings account. You already know it's just sitting in a savings account. But once it goes out in the market, you've got all of these different things that you can be in that you have no control of.
Yes.
It takes quicker to get it back out. All these things happen. So people kind of lose control, and it's like they're letting go of balloons. For some reason, that just pictured in my head. They just let it go, and then they have no control of that anymore.
That's right.
And because they don't feel that, they don't have the confidence. And it's not easy to take care of real quick. But I don't know, people are happy about it when the market's going great. They're going, oh, these guys are awesome. They're taking care of the money.
Right.
Everything's going well. They feel confident, but then all of a sudden it's going crazy and they feel like they have no control. And so it's from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, that's right. And that is interesting that you say that, because There's one thing that people always say, especially when you're consulting, they say, don't look at the news. Because looking at the news, because there's a level of like 90% negative almost, right? It's almost like nothing is good happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only 10% of the time that things are good. You know, when the weather comes on and it says it's going to be 70s all week, like, okay, well, that's a bright spot in the world.
Yeah.
So when you see that over and over again, does that seem to play in people's minds when they're trying to stay long-term focused, or does that help them shift into short-term thinking?
Yeah, I think it definitely turns them to the short-term thinking, because what they see on the news, it's not only negative and bad, but you have all sorts of different channels that are going to tell you something different, but it's all
Yes,
still negative. It's there to scare people. It's getting control of the people in
sure.
there. And it was just making me think that the news is just, it goes to way too extreme, because like when they had that really bad flood and everything in Tennessee just
Yeah.
recently, and they said all these bad things on the news. I mean, it was bad, but I called my friend in Nashville and she said, we have a lot of water, but it's nothing to compare what they were saying on the news. She's like, it's not as extreme as what they're saying. So it made me think of the news, but people are still going to listen to it because they watch it all the time, and it puts that freak into their mind, and they continue listening to that.
Yeah.
They don't stop, or they don't look at somebody else's opinion on that.
Yeah. And that's true because, again, I'm not, and I want to make sure people that are listening know that I'm not coming down on the news, neither is Kerri. It's just your perception at the time, especially when you hear the market is down, you have your money out there, but what goes through your mind at that very moment is panic. And it feels like the panic is, I might as well just have that money in my pocket than put it out there to lose it. And you start making rash decisions at that particular time. And so that's what I'm alluding to in this example here when we talk about the news. And let's talk about a couple other points that you're talking about when it comes to worry, because this is good. This is, again, for people that are struggling during this time. Regret is far more worrying than fear, thinking later about where they messed up. People now seem to live longer and are afraid of losing money. And we'll talk about this point here later on, but 200,000, is that really enough to retire? So talk to us, because this is where the brain shift comes in, folks. Talk to us a little bit about these points here, Kerri. What's the importance of them?
So when you look at that, regret is far more, worrying than fear.
Yes.
Because if you have that short time fear, it's just for a short amount of time. But that in the long run, you have that huge amount of regret as you're seeing what's happening to that. So when you look at the, longer distances of that, or the longer time frames, then the regret comes later. And what they're seeing is what they could have missed. They look back at what they could have missed instead of more of what they're doing now is, look what I've made. So
Yes.
they're comfortable with that, but the fear of that and the regret from not doing, the right thing, hopefully that fits you, is they look back and say, dang it, now I'm worried about later. Now what's going to happen later because of that little bit of fear I had at that time.
Yes.
And then that same part is that the people seem to live longer, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize I was going to have like 40 years of retirement because of what I learned before. I thought, what I'm doing, and we're going to go over some more of this stuff later, but it's like, what am I doing now? That's going to fit in my future because that's what's been happening. But right now, they're looking at their retirement plan and they're like, oh my goodness. Now, with not only with the market doing what it's doing, now what happens? I live longer. What am I going to
Yes.
do?
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty, because we talked about worrying. I know people are there. They feel a certain way, and hopefully those that are watching you're starting to shift gears, because that's exactly where Kerri is taking you, to this moment of shifting gears and not being so consumed with worry. Now let's talk about investing. Let's talk about where you are currently, and let's figure out how to stay with the plan. And so, process to successful investing. Kerri's giving us these points here of identifying goals, pick the type of investment, brokerage account, retirement plans, IRAs, open account and put in money, pick investments, communicate, trust, and relax. Beware of the temptation of DIY. So let's go ahead and start to take us down the path of identify goals, Kerri. Why is that the starting point?
Okay, so when you want to first start sitting down and looking at your financial whole strategy, what you want to see in your life, the first thing to look at is pretty much when you want to retire, what kind of things do you want to do? Put these goals together of what you want your future to be. Because then once you have those ready, then we can go in the back, go back time and start looking into making the financial plan for that. But you really have to have your goals on there. If somebody wants to just go and put in money into the market and they have no goals on it, they don't really know where it's going to end. Sure. So the very first easy thing is to get down there, identify the goals of what you want out of your investments, what you're looking for. And then the next part, and these are when kind of a financial person that understands this stuff can help, but you can kind of go in, pick the type of investment you want. Again, this depends on, okay, what's your fear level? What do you want to start with? What are your goals? Some people just want to start with something simple. Some people are like, okay, I'm ready to go. So that's when I talk with clients about picking the type of investment that they're going to want to work with. Once we figure all that out, then of course, now comes the time that's kind of scary. Let's open the account, put the money in. I help with people pick the investments depending on their risk level, time frame, what they want to do. And then the biggest one is communicate, trust, and relax. And in this situation, you really want to communicate with the people that are helping you with this. Keep up to date, communicate often, especially depending on your fear or not, and really keep that communication going. And that's just kind of the steps we go through on that is the process, but starting from the base and going all the way to the end, and then the temptation of the DIY.
Doing yourself, huh?
Yes. So, yeah, it's totally through the whole thing. The easy part is that, identifying your goals, getting through there. Middle part's kind of the hard part, understanding it and where to put it. And then the part that is hard, but if you're just relaxed, understand the concept, see your goals, where are you going, then relax and, be steady and let it go. But trust yourself, trust the person you're working with, and really seeing your long-term goals, not your short-time fears.
I want to take a stab at this because these are all good, first and foremost, everybody that's watching, and also Kerri, I completely agree. But let's talk about some of the pitfalls. Identifying goals. Identify how good you are as far as keeping goals. I'm going to challenge everybody to really ask yourself as an individual. A lot of people have goals, but identify your history as far as getting to the end goal. If you don't have a good history of reaching goals, that's going to be your frustration right there when it comes to achieving goals. It's going to be the same because volatility, in order to achieve goals, you have to include volatility. You have to know that it's part of the process. And so ask yourself, and then this is where you actually need to communicate to your advisor, such as Kerri, and say, hey, I struggle here. I get scared here. This is where you can develop that trust and relax that Kerri has, and you develop your relationship with your advisor in that way. But because we're in the society of do it yourself, that's actually a control mechanism. People want to control everything because they don't trust anything. Mm-hmm. And we're struggling as a society to trust service anymore. And when you have a good service provider such as Kerri to help you get through these volatility, well, then here's your situation where the volatility just it really activates your temptation to do it yourself. So I would advise everybody when Kerri's talking about these things, she's saying it real simply, but it's harder than what you think. because we all have ways of doing stuff that are, I don't know, we get in our own way. As consultants, we get in our own way. Would that be right, Kerri?
Yeah, that'd be exactly right. And as you're talking about this, these things are coming up in my head, of goals. And this one, you can look at it a different way. As a marathon runner, I had a coach, and the coach would explain what I need to do, this and this, how it goes. And if I miss anything in the middle of that, thinking, oh, I can do this on my own,
Yes.
then in the long run, you're not getting the results you want. And I've experienced that before. So as you were talking about that, you've got to trust, who you're working with, your client or your coach, and really take advantage of that too, since you have it. But that just reminded me of a time when, in an instance like this too, is really know what your goal was. Mine was to finish a marathon at a certain time. So what do I have to do exactly to get there, and not ditch out of it, and continue to listen to a person that's an expert at it, that's helping you out. So that's just another more simple goal that some people can look at it, because that's much less stressful than money. But it's the same thing. Like you're saying, it works the same way.
That's it. And that's it. And that's the transition here, folks. So it's one thing to look at the market and be worried, and listen to the news and be worried. But then now the second phase is, how do you handle that worry? Does your worry go above and beyond your goals? Have you done that before historically? If you have, that's something that you tell your advisor. When I get worried, I shut down. I don't do anything. Of course, you don't want to. You want to be stoic. You want to feel like you're brave and that you got it together. But everybody has bad habits, and bad habits don't just stop with whatever in something in particular. It shows up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the type of conversation that your consultant needs to have in order to be amazing for you. Your consultant, if you show up as stoic, he or she's going to assume that you already got it together. So part of that's that communication to help develop the trust and help get to the point where everybody relax when volatility hits. So this is what we're talking about as far as being successful at investing, not just investing, but be successful at it. Kerri brought us an example here of investing $50. Go ahead and take us through this chart, please.
So I wanted to bring this up as something just very simple, just to start people to kind of see what can happen, what has happened with historical numbers, things like this. So this is just a basic example of putting in $50 a month, having an average I think we ran this at a 10% growth, but this is average. It could be more, it could be less. And the market goes up and down. So your investment will never look like the graph, just, constantly just going up. But this is an example that shows if you take the time, even just a little bit, you can gain money pretty well in the long run. It's always going to go up. The market always goes up. You see those ups and downs in there, but you're always seeing it grow. So that's what that shows. It's very simple. A way to start, looking into this stuff, $50 a month. And if you look at it, $50 doesn't sound that much every month. So it should be easy for people to think, okay, we'll put it in. But when they see what the outcome could be, nothing is guaranteed, but what the outcome could be, maybe that helps them feel a little bit more, understand it a little bit more, and feel more confident of what they can see, and again, illustrations, samples like this are no guarantee, but like I said, the market's always going up, and a lot of people have the $50 a month to invest, but as you look at a graph, if you have more and you have more of a commitment for looking at a bigger future, then something like this can teach people something on just the basics of how it works.
That's fair. Okay. And again, we'll get into more investment types and conversation in regards to that. But let's talk about this scenario here, this different type of investment scenario. We have the importance of identifying the right number. And we alluded to that earlier at that 200,000. And we'll talk about that right now, but starting a long-term investment with enough emergency funds to be relaxed. So talk to us about the importance of identifying the right number, Kerri.
So when we're looking at the right number, we want to know what your investment's going to look like, how much you think you're going to need in the future, what you want to do in your future, things like that. And people need to understand kind of what that number is going to be. And for instance, in that 200,000 we saw before, I've spoken to a lot of people that have $200,000 sitting in their investment and they're thinking they can retire. Okay, well, great. Let's look at this and see if that's really going to suit you and if you're on that right number to be able to reach those goals that you want. And people really don't know that. So you really need to sit down and identify what you're really looking for, what you want your future to be like, what you're going to need to have for that future. And then that's when we can set your goal. But a lot of people really don't do that. They see, okay, I have the money now. It looks like I can retire, so I'm going to do it. They don't really analyze it enough to really know and realize how much they need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk about this because this is getting me all excited here. So emergency funds, mindset. Let's talk about this. This is extremely important. So emergency funds should be 3 to 6 months income in a save long-term account so that you don't have to pull money from your investments that are long-term goals for the future. If your total bills per month are $6,000, at least $24,000 to prefer 36,000 should be easily accessible. When some is used, refill the bucket. Minimum 10% of your income should be invested first to begin and continue your long term. If this is not possible, save the emergency fund. Then a different financial strategy needs to be done and a different look at how to use your money to get to the goal. Now, this has been introduced throughout the years as far as emergency funds, putting aside 3 to 6 months. And that gets the wheels going. That gets people started. That gets people feeling a level of security. That actually takes away that security because you know that you have this buffer there. And then when somebody like you comes to the table and says, hey, let's invest, let's do something, you know that you have your emergency funds over here on your right side. So that way on your left side, you can go ahead and participate and potentially get more. Mm-hmm. So why is this not still, do you feel like this is still how people are moving? Because I don't know, to me, Kerri, in this day and age, because things are so expensive, this used to be an achievable goal. Mm-hmm. But now it seems like this is even a harder goal to get to. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go and give you the floor and give you potentially the thought processes out there.
Yeah. So you're, exactly right with that one point, that it has become a lot more expensive to live, and having that savings money is hard to have on the side. It's a lot of money. A lot of people don't even have that in their investments. A lot of people don't even have a huge income that they're able to put that money aside. So it is a big cost, and it is pretty scary for people. Another way people get stressed out and risk. But what's happening is because they don't have this savings, here comes the credit card again. Here comes money taking out of your long-term investments that you're needing to use. And when all that happens, then your emergency fund, it just goes in this big old circle about never having enough money. Now, if you have enough of that money, that first 6 months, if something happens, if you lose your job, if your spouse loses their job, if something comes up that you really need to get something new, like a new car. My mom just had to buy a new car, unfortunately, because she had just gotten in a car accident, which is not good. But she had to have that extra money sitting there, and thank goodness she had some. And then we always want to keep refilling that back up. So when you're looking at your investments and where you want to be, of course, we're looking long-term, and we're going to talk more about that, look at long-term. But we need to be able to have something invested for you, easy access, easily, to get to when you have these emergencies. And that's what it says on the 10%. The first 10% of your income should be invested right into that emergency fund. So you have that. And when you use the emergency fund, you're able to fill that up again. But continue to watch your long-term investments. Just continue to grow. Keep your hands off. and don't do anything. And example of this, I'm working with a lady. She's a wonderful lady. I love her. And we sat down to do all these long-term goals. Well, she doesn't have the emergency fund. And we've had to pull money out of her accounts because all of a sudden her long-term focus was gone because she wanted to go on a vacation now. So an instance for this is even that emergency fund, you can still kind of have it as your fun money, not just emergencies, but be able to do what you want to do without using your credit. Have the money available to be able to get things done right away. But remember to keep having that, because if somebody loses their job, somebody has to go to the hospital, somebody has to do, there's all these different options that could happen that you're going to need that money for. So this is a big deal when you're looking at your long-term care investments.
Kerri, as you're talking, this is what comes to mind. Here's why it's always been sounding good, but never gets executed in my mind. Ideally, this is the scenario that you want to be in, but rarely, especially if we're identifying our goals, do we identify our lifestyles. Mm-hmm. Our lifestyles typically don't match hitting these type of goals. Mm-hmm. Our lifestyles can be fun heavy, meaning I need to travel every 3 months, or I have kids. We have kids and our income has changed. Mm-hmm. And they're getting bigger. their outgo hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. We had to buy a bigger house so there's some things that change because life has changed and your income has not changed. Mm-hmm. And you can find yourself fairly easily underwater just because of life and how things have changed. Mm-hmm. But when we assess and identify our goals, we never talk about the what ifs things can happen. Mm-hmm. This is what emergency funds are for, is for the what ifs. But typically we don't know what those what ifs are because we're always talking about from a vision of things are going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And I just want to throw caution to the wind because, again, when we talk about successful investing, we got to take a step back and think about how we do our day to day and be a really honest assessment to that. Is that fair to say, Kerri, or is that a little far reaching?
Yeah, it really is, because people don't really know what they're going to need. And when you're talking like that, it kind of reminds me of people spend a lot of money going to Starbucks every day, or spending money way too much where they really don't need to all the time. So they're not looking again at the long term to be able to have that cash available.
Yeah.
People are just looking short term. They're wanting things now. They're not understanding it, and they're going to look at the future later.
Yes.
And like we said earlier before, it's even hard to save up money to do that. People are using their credit cards just to do that. So it's just becoming this big circle of not really knowing your goals, not knowing where you want to be. And if you don't know that, then you sure don't know how to save money now.
Sure. All right. So then identifying the right number, promised everybody we would come back to it. It was talking about the 200K. And so let's talk about this, identifying the right number, because this is where life has changed for us. Because, I don't know, you'll explain it to us in a minute. Let me go ahead and read this narrative to everybody. Identifying the right number, where you are now, where you want to retire, how much is needed to live comfortably, at what age, and all these things you want to be doing after retirement: travel, spend time with family, etc. Many of the baby boomers have retirement plans that today may not be as good. So when calculating them, you're able to add pensions, Social Security, and 401ks. Today, most companies do not give such great retirement plans, so more of the retirement money will have to come from your own income. With the process higher now, a lot of children aren't leaving home until the 20s, so saving might start even later. So 200K, I'm just going to throw out that number since we had talked about earlier. That's not a small number whatsoever. If you have that saved up, if you have that in the bank, that makes you feel very good. You've achieved something for sure. That is a deceiving number in my mind. because it doesn't answer your lifestyle. When we talk about an annual year, let's say your average monthly outgo is about 5,000. That's about 6,000, or was that 60,000 by the end of the year, and that cuts right into that 200K if that's a retirement. So talk to me about this identifying the right number. That's where my mind goes, but I want you to shape it because obviously you know better. So talk to us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just kind of a review on that 200,000 and what you said, $60,000 would be your regular income. But if your bills were, came out at 50,000 a year, that money is going to be gone in 4 years.
4 years.
So the very first thing you got to look at is, okay, so for one thing, let's at least, if we only have 200,000, let's at least look at some kind of investment that we can grow that. So maybe we can just be living off the interest, which wouldn't happen on 200,000, but that's an example of some different options on how to look at that and live, and also change your perspective and how much you're going to spend in the future. But $200,000 does sound like a good amount of money. It really does when you look at it as the number.
Yes.
But you don't look at it as how fast it's going to go away.
That's
so
right.
it's just something that people have to really sit down and learn about and understand how the money works, how it's going to grow, when you can use it, how much you're going to need. And you just need to really think about, okay, how much am I going to need? And 200,000, it seems like a big number now, but after retirement, that's not a big number anymore, especially once the prices are going up everywhere. If things change, you want to move, buy a house, any of that, things are changing with every day there's a question on what's going to happen again tomorrow right now.
Yeah.
And so if you have $200,000, you feel comfortable now, but you really need to sit down and look and see if your goals are going to fit that 200,000, because it's different. Like it says in here, with all the retirement things, a lot of people like, our age, we've grown up with the baby boomers on our parents. And I was just talking to my mom yesterday, and she still has a great PARA, which is a Colorado teacher kind of retirement plan, Social Security, that kind of things. They still had that pretty good. And so when we talked about that, she's doing pretty well. But today, a lot of these companies don't have these things. So people are really going to have to plan on their own money to be able to retire, and just have maybe, the Social Security or any other kind of retirement plans is kind of like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
But you have to have pretty much the basis of what you're going to need to retire.
Absolutely, Gary. And I'm sorry, I got so deep in thought in what you're saying. It's interesting because, and this is not coming down on America, it's just what the facts are. The retirement age that is given to us per se is 65, or I think it's changing to 67 here, probably in the next few years or whatever. But let's say 67. That's the age that is given us to retire. When you say when people are living longer, that means you have a longer time for things to go awry. Yes, you have time to have fun, but you also have time for health to come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can have fun, but you also have your kids who may still want something. One thing that you have said in one of our shows is to live in a retirement home is about $10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever have to be in that situation or put somebody in a retirement home, that chips right into that 200K. And if you're living longer and those options aren't there, and retirement may not be as high as you expected it to be, you're gambling with time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that I'm getting out of what you're saying. And when we're talking about successfully investing, we have to actually start looking at time and circumstances. And it's almost to that point where there's no choice but to invest, because if you're at a specific income year after year, that only gives you a specific amount that you can do annually.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're going to have to make up that difference somewhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where investing comes into play to make up the difference.
Yeah. You really need to look into that. And it goes again at your age level, as you get older, what kind of investments you should be looking into, because if you get older and older, you want to be in something a much lower risk so that the money is able to grow at least a little bit and you'll have it. But when you're younger, of course, you want to have something at a higher risk to get that money to grow quicker. But in the end, when it comes to the topic that you were just saying, is that in the end, we really want to make sure that you have the ability to make money, but you also have enough money to live off while that's making that extra money. You can't just count on the 200,000. I'll be fine with that when they're not looking into different possibilities to see it grow and be able to use that money. So they really don't kind of understand the market itself, how it works. They get freaked out, but when they see that money, it's just the 200,000 again. Like I said, it's just a lot of money at the time, but they're just not understanding it. And the older you get, the costs are going to go up for everything. So the money is going to be a big difference. What's worth 2,000 today, when you retire in 10 years, is probably going to cost you 5,000. So you may think the 200,000 right now is looking really good, but that might only take 1 year to get rid of with the inflation in the next 10 years. So people aren't really looking at that. They're thinking, okay, at 65, I'm going to retire. I have this money. Everything's good.
Yeah.
So, they're not understanding that part. And so it's just really needing to look into the future and figure something out.
Okay. All right. So you want to go on with this last point as far as identifying the right number? So
yeah,
I think, this is a huge point. So 6,000 now equals 14,565.57 after 30 years in purchasing power, with an average inflation rate of 3%. So if you want to retire in 30 years and be able to live for another 15, the amount needed to be saved is $2.6 million. This, of course, is without retirement plans or Social Security they can't be counted on. So starting as early as possible is recommended. So that number, that 200,000 that you had discussed, and 2.6 million, that's a huge difference. Talk to us about that number, because 2.6 million sounds like what you're saying is what you really need to retire on.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I was waiting for this slide because I knew this was coming up. So yeah, so it was kind of in the example I just got, just gave, the 6,000 now. These are more numbers that I had calculated, can equal up to 14,000. So if you need 6,000 a month, in 30 years, you're going to need 14,000 some month. And to be able to do that with inflation for 30 years, a lot of these retirements, that average is about 2.6 million. And again, it goes where you live and things like that, because places like California compared to Oklahoma, they're going to be different costs on how to retire. But on average, this is about what they're going to need because of the inflation and everything. And on those other things like the retirement plan, Social Security, those things will, I'm sure, be around. They're going to be around. We just don't know how much. So you always want to at least know that you have that money set aside that you're going to need. And that scares the heck out of people. But, reality is reality. And so, again, we compare 2.6 million to the 200,000 that you thought you'd have. This is why people really need to understand, talk to somebody, learn about it. And this can help the fear go down a little bit. I think the fear is going to hit really quick. Crap, 2.6 million. There's the fear right there. How am I going to do it?
There you go.
But that's when you can sit back. Let's look at it again, talk about it, explain it, and let's make a different goal objective. And maybe when they're seeing those numbers, they're thinking, okay, I need to do better with my saving now. Instead of spending all this and waiting another 10 years to start saving because I know I can do it. You don't know. Nobody knows, because anything can happen at any time. But that's what's scary. I mean, when we look at the inflation, we all know it's here. We're seeing it happen really bad right now.
Yeah.
With everything going up. And so 2.6 million. If that's, things we need to look at, or you might have to find another part-time job after you retire.
Yeah. That's, and the great thing about this conversation here, Kerri, is you're giving that the truth. We need to have the truthful number, not the number that looks good, because $200,000, again, that's not a small at all. But what the worry is it the right number? That's the worry, folks. So now let's put our worry in the right pocket. Worry if you have enough. And so Kerri's giving you the enough part of it, at least to get started. And that's where your actual goal comes into play, is now you understand why this is a long-term game. Because what you're able to do versus what Kerri's able to help you see and get you to two different ballparks. So that's why you want to have a coach, somebody to actually talk to you about this to help you get to the right place. 3 chair legs, Kerri. For those that are watching and those that are listening, we have a chair with 3 legs, we have a chair with 2, and then we have a chair with just 1. Why is this important for people to understand?
I look at this as a really good example with the picture. So like we spoke about before on the other one, a lot of people hope they have retirement employment plans. They hope they have Social Security. And then the third leg is we have to have our own money to get that stability. So when everything goes well, the people love it, they know they're going to have the other 2 benefits, which are retirement plan and your Social Security, then you have the 3 legs on there and your future looks bright. We lose one of those, say the Social Security income goes down, there's one of those legs taken off and it starts falling. And then the retirement plan, if you don't have those, there goes the next leg and you're down. So what this shows is you need to have a balance and an understanding of how to keep that up. And if you don't have the Social Security or your retirement plan, you're going to have to put all 3 legs into your ownership and get that to be stable. And and that's what it looks like. If you lose one of them, another example is kind of like a plane. If you have the regular plane and the 2 wings, but you lose one of those wings, your plane is gonna go down.
That's right.
And so you really need to look at all of the different options that are out there to be able to keep you a stable retirement plan.
Okay. I respect that. And so now everybody, as you're listening, now you're coming to just understanding the point of the show as far as portfolio development, why it's so essential. And so what does portfolio development mean to you, Kerri? Why? Because this is not a common term as far as portfolio development within the marketplace, within your industry, but why are you introducing it this way?
I look at portfolio development, which means understanding all of the different ways out there and the options that you have to be able to put your life together, I guess you can say, to put it together. And that's understanding everything. Portfolio development, I'm going to kind of go ahead on what this says and then go back on an example. So what this means is portfolio development is having everything together ready for your future. You have options that you can pay taxes now, which are more like your savings, your emergency funds, things like that you will be paying taxes now, but you have access to that money. The tax later is definitely your retirement plans, which we've been talking about, all your 401ks, IRAs, other investment plans that you can use for retirement, but you'll get taxed later on that. But then we also have the tax never, which are such things as Roth IRAs, and there also is life insurance income that you can get that is also tax never. So what this shows is a good diagram of if you have everything equally put into each of these sections, then we know where you're going to be in the middle of the time when you want to start taking money out before retirement. You're going to have enough to know when you retire. And also, I'm not a tax person, and I'm not going to say anything. The only thing I'm going to say about the tax is these 3 different buckets also help in different ways to save taxes on what you have, where you're going, and how to put that all together. So knowing where each one, that's kind of your portfolio development, is having everything put together. If you want to start, when you first start doing your investments and you want to start with something simple, let's start with a small amount of savings or some kind of savings to get you started where you feel comfortable. And then on your portfolio, once you start getting more of your long-term objectives put together, what you want to see in the future. And then if your risk level is getting a little bit better, you're having more trust, you're understanding the concepts more, then let's start investing in some of these other things. And let's put this whole portfolio together so that you have all the different options that you want. You have different ways to spend it, whatever your goals are, but you can look into the future and see what these things calculate. And you watch this as the time. You watch how these grow, watch how they do all these different things, but you have it all. It's kind of like all in one bucket, but in that bucket, you have the 3 different buckets.
Yes,
all
that's
your
right.
money's kind of together that you can see your future with, but you have different areas that you can look at. And I think putting that all together is a whole portfolio of all the options that are out there.
I love it. And I know for those that love to watch their accounts and see what's going on, this addresses the worry that we had spoke upon earlier. When it comes to worry, it's because potentially your all your eggs are in this one basket. If with a portfolio diversification, you allow yourself the opportunity to see one, it might be struggling this month or for this quarter, but you have 2 or 3 of them, other ones that are performing, out of this world. So now you're always performing on some level. And it gives you that opportunity to stay in the game and keep your mind from doing what your mind does, which is worry, which is get concerned, which is want to freak out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put it when it seems like when there's chaos around, when you put yourself in a place where there's positivity that you can point to, that's key to investing in portfolio development. So that's what it seems like to me as well, Kerri. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think what you're saying sounds perfect. And while you were thinking that, I was thinking of some little news articles I've been seeing. Not that I really watch these, and this is fact, but we'll go back to that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people out there right now really concerned about the future with their 401ks. There's been some comments out there in the news that the market is just not going the way they wanted it. They're seeing it crash, and they're scared half to death because their 401k retirement plan is dissolving. This is where the concepts come in like this, that you have these options.
Yes.
So if you're seeing your 401k disappearing, you have some other options in that big bucket. The little buckets have the different options. And you really need to be able to look at it the whole picture, because the people that just have the 401ks right now and don't have any other kind of investment, yes, they're scared, especially the ones that are coming close to retirement. They don't have the diversification of their investments. They don't even know if they're invested in the right funds or accounts or everything in that 401k plan.
That's right.
They're just freaking out because it's going down. So that's why if you have this whole portfolio put together, then like you said, if one thing's doing well and the other's bad, you still have that comfort. But if you just have one of those right in that middle tax later, it can cause stress. It can cause stress. It can cause fear. And it can cause people to start pulling that out of the market and then losing the benefits later.
That's right.
But yeah, you really have to have the diversification to make you feel more calm, a little more safe, and just the ability to continue doing your daily work. Because the other thing is you have no ability to fix or change things that are happening right now. If you can't control it, there's no need to worry about it. If there's something you can do, like make a plan like this, then do it. But you can't worry about things that are happening outside that can affect the things that you can control.
That's right. Love it. So then you have this last major point here, which is remember why you invested in the first place. And these are some key points. Did you want to take us through those?
Yeah, and these are simple. So one of them is to make the extra income. Again, that goes back. That's a just simple way to put, let's look at your income for the future. That's something simple to put together with an investment to make that extra income for your retirement. once people have that too, there are a lot of families that have their retirement plan. It's set, they're already getting their income, they're doing great, but they want to set things up for their children. A lot of people have money set aside for even grandchildren's education, things like that. When you get to the point where you're comfortable with what you have, then you have the ability to help out and give to family. And then the last one, people who make the most out of the market have portfolios and they have the long-term focus, just like we talked about with the slide before that with the different tax buckets. And it's just, remember again why you're investing in the first place. You're not investing to go on a vacation next month and take all your money out. That's not the reason you're investing. The reason is you're long-term, so you have a comfy retirement and you can live the life that you want to live, not have to live stress day by day by day, every day for the rest of your life.
Kerri, I'm going to throw this out here, and then we'll go on to the last point. Is part of the achievement of money and investing is to finally stop worrying about money? I want you to think about that, because money, when you don't have debt, when you don't have a mortgage, all you have is taxes. You don't have this monthly reoccurring, thing going on, concentrating on, to get to the point where money is not your top priority. Because I don't think we actually realize how much of a top priority money is to folks and to us.
Mm-hmm.
It overrides a lot of stuff. Let's be really clear. If we really want to be honest, it overrides a lot of stuff in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But to get to that point where we are free from that worry of money and we can just be, I feel like that is like almost part of the end goal in this long-term plan, is to get away from debt, to get away from that stuff that's always nagging at us if we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I don't know. Is that a fair comment there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I have a lot of the coach that I have for my work. The question that he asks a lot of people and me is, if money had no concern, what would you want your future to be like?
Yes.
And that's when people say, yeah, I want this, 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 and this, if I don't have to worry about the money. And so that puts them in kind of the position about, oh, okay, either crap, well, it takes me back, I don't have enough money. Or it could be on the optimistic side. It's like, cool, if I could do all this, I'd love to have this kind of money. And so it's just a way to look at, when it gets more, this is when it doesn't have to do with numbers and facts and all this stuff. It's stuff in your mind of what kind of things can I achieve? What can I do if I didn't have to worry about the money at all? And that's a positive thing. And just one little negative thing is, I know somebody that had just lost their job. Money was not a problem for them, but now all of a sudden her income has stopped.
Yeah.
And she's really stressed out. So that's a kind of another reason you want to look at the plan, but again, emotion.
That's right.
And I think after losing a business, if you still have that view of your emotions and what you want, then it can be easier to overcome the fear that you just lost that income and go forward. You just have to be, I know it's stressful, but you just have to be more relaxed, understand things happen and how we can help you. But but I love that. I got this thing on my wall. It's covered up with all this stuff, but it's kind of like my dream map and my dream board. And I look at it all the time. It's things that I want to do, things that, I don't want to leave this earth not doing.
Yeah.
So you have to look back. It's like, this is what I want to do. These are my goals. And what do I need to be able to do that? So emotions are a big thing, because that was bringing tears to my eyes, because I'm thinking of what's on that picture.
Yeah, there it is.
Huge goals that I have. And when you have emotions like this, then you will find a way to figure it out.
That's fair.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. This is how we get honest with the people. We gotta let them know where we are, where we stand.
Wow.
You have this
Hmm.
this this portrait of Albert Einstein. Obviously, his hair is nice and done, but that's not the point of this quote. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the floor and have you explain why this one hits you so hard.
Yeah. So on that, it says the compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. So what that's telling us right now is this person he kind of knows what he's talking about. He's got the plan of his own. He's made the money and he's taught us how, in his own way, how to do this. But this is a sign that just says, hey, let's look into this. Because if we understand where we're going, understand the concepts of everything, understand the realities out of it, understand the future, all of those kind of things that you can look at, you can change the world. I'm just going to put that in there. That popped in my head. You could change the world for yourself. If you don't understand this, if you're too afraid, if you're not going to do anything, you don't want to have this other wonderful world of yours, then you're not going to do it. And what I enjoy saying that is you can put that in any way possible, whether it has to do with your money or what. You have to participate in what things you want for your future to happen, the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
And you just have to know that that's available. People just have to get it. That's just, it's easier said than done, but it's simple. It's simple. If you have your goals, if you understand it and you need to participate, don't be the sideline of a football game when you're sitting there telling them what to do, but you're not participating.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah, which I'm sorry, but I do it to the Denver Broncos. So, I'm saying that to myself too. But, but that's kind of thing. Yeah, you have to participate. So, that's it.
Well, Kerri, we went over a lot of stuff, and I appreciate you taking the time to really dissect it all because this is a very important time. We've gone through a lot of changes, and a lot of people are extremely scared. And for those that are watching and listening, I want to make sure you understand this is not our typical length of the show, but because of the times that we're in, we needed to spend the time to really address this time and how to set your emotions back on the right course. And I feel confident Kerri has done a fantastic job as far as shaping that and getting you back on the right path. So, Kerri, before we leave the show, what is your final thought to everybody, and what do you want people to do at this particular time?
Hope I'm back on here.
Yeah, you're back on here.
Okay, it locked up there for a minute. So, all right. Oh, my last word for this whole thing. So I kind of just went over it a little bit ago, especially when a tear in my eyes. But I just want to let people know that sharing this information with you is helping you to just realize what you want out of your life and how we can do it. I'm here to support you because I know people are there with fear. I know people that are really shaky about the future, but if we can just really sit down, look at your goals, look at your objectives, really feel about what you want and make you more comfortable about what you want to see in your future, then that's definitely what we can do. Because all of it is kind of, when I looked at it before, the main point is all emotions. It's all your own fears, your own feelings that help determine your future. It's not just numbers. It's just not money. Just there are different views on it. So I'm here to help with that. Get your mind settled down and help you grow in your future.
And that's that. Kerri, again, thank you so much for, again, taking your time to break this down, to help people shift their mindset through this. And because, again, this is very important. We're seeing a lot of people emotionally go down the drain as far as with the marketplace because they're losing a lot and they did not expect for this to come into play. So I feel like we're really addressing those folks to really help them shift through. So I hope people are really being responsive as far as you watching, and that you're hearing what Kerri's saying. And Kerri, thank you again for taking that time, because with all the people that you're helping shift gears and stay on track, is very. When we here at Executive Talk, we express a lot of gratitude to you to actually take the time to take this and really point this out. So thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. You have a wonderful day.
All right, you too. All right. And all those that are watching, I want to take all this in totality. We see the worrying. That's why we started off with talking about the worry, because that's the emotion that is at the height for everybody right now. You did not expect to lose money. You did not get into the marketplace to lose money. And Kerri, people like Kerri, she gets that. But this is actually not the time for worry to consume you. It's how do we fix it? How do we stay in the game and get to the end game? One thing that we all know about life is time. We don't really have time to get into the worry bubble and find ourselves down below emotionally, and also with the market going down as well. That's too much at one time. This show is built for us to shift gears and know that there is an opportunity out there, and it's called portfolio development. Figure out ways on top of this, but don't do it yourself. Find a trusted advisor such as Kerri to help you navigate through this time frame to stay in the game. You still have an end game, and you still have a goal that needs to be reached. And that's the most important value at this time, is to reach that goal and not let today change where your mind is. We're going to stop that mindset that you're in right now and get you to that positive mindset and say there is still opportunity. And that's what Kerri's job is, to find that opportunity to help you move through it and stay on top as you were before. We're here to win. We're here to be successful. We're here to support your family. And that's what we want to address in today's show. I want to thank you all for staying the course with us. And we will be back next time. And Kerri obviously has a lot more to talk about. But in the meantime, Kerri and I, we actually have to get back to work. So we will see you next time. Have a good day.